Hi, my name is Melody, and this is a project that I started in January, and now it's December of 2024, and it has been a busy year to sum it up, but I decided to return back to this project before the end of the year and make some improvements. I decided to abandon actually this top specifically and just decided to make a new top with alterations to the pattern. But I just wanted to mention that I tried so hard to make this work, but the stretch of the fabric, the knit, is about a 20% stretch, which I'm used to working with. But I think because it did stretch cross grain and lengthwise, maybe that's why it was so difficult to work with. And I did, as you can see, add water soluble interfacing to counter the stretch as I sew. But because it's also humid where I live and I guess I sweat and my sweaty hands would touch it, and it did like slightly dissolve, and then as I sew it did cause like slight stretch, which still was very undesirable. And The other problem was that the presser foot would press too hard on the fabric, and the feed dogs would they would work together. The presser foot and the feed dogs would work together to cause this ripple effect as it made stitches in the knit, and it would stretch the knit and place too many stitches, per inch. And I didn't like that effect either. And I'm pretty sure, because it's been a whole year, I'm pretty sure that I adjusted the stitch length to be smaller and longer, and it still didn't help. So I decided enough is enough. I'm over this. I just want a nice top that I made, that I have this idea and I want it to materialize. So I decided to use a different fabric, woven, 100% cotton, I believe. But I didn't check. I just knew I really liked the print. Yeah, so you'll see that in a sec. But I'm just like writing notes about what changes I need to make to the pattern, looking at this as a sample piece, and just deciphering what things I need to improve. Like this sleeve here, there's like a 3-inch rise from the outer part of the sleeve, from the inseam of the sleeve, and I didn't like that difference, so I needed to add the 3-inch to that. And I decided to like cut off the kimono sleeves and make it a set-in sleeve instead. And the 3-inch was originally going to be put on the hem, but I decided it would make more sense to put it on the sleeve cap. So here's the fabric that I'm going to be using instead for the second attempt. And here is the original pattern. And then this is what it ended up looking like in the end. So 3-piece pattern. Actually, maybe 5, but I forgot to add in like one tiny piece. So here we go. We're starting. This is the beginning. To make a better top, I first have to make changes to the pattern, and there are going to be a lot of changes actually. Here I'm looking at the pattern and I realized that I had made the center front of the front top like a v-neck instead of like a open top, which does the crisscross. So I'm like trying to decide, am I gonna go with the V where the center front is on fold, or am I gonna copy what I did, and I decided I'm gonna add in that little bit for the, I'm gonna continue that diagonal line to make that crisscross top. I want to call this more, it's like a kimono. It's kimono inspired, but it's not like authentic, right? It's just like a crisscross wraparound sort of top. So I think for the rest of the video, I'm just going to call it a top. So I'm going to trace this pattern completely. And then I'm going to add in the changes after I trace it onto the paper. So there are 5 changes that I need to make to this pattern. I need to raise the front shoulder seam 1 inch, and then to match that on the back pattern, I need to lower the shoulder seam 1 inch. So that is necessary to do those 2 actions because I want the side seam of the top to still match. And then third, I need to cut out the kimono sleeve. If you can see that the sleeve and the body is one piece. And I decided like that 3-inch raise on the sleeve, I think the best thing to do is to make it a set-in sleeve and then add the 3-inch to the sleeve cap. That way, like the hem of the sleeve is more leveled, like with the ground. So, and the rest of the top. So that is like ideal for me. 4, I need to add 1 inch to the front opening, where that diagonal edge is. Like I've tried that blue top on, and like it's kind of like too revealing. There's like too much cleavage going on, so I was like, there needs to be like 1 inch to like help protect my modesty. Yeah. And then so that'll be 1 inch on the right, 1 inch on the left, and so that'll like be sufficient coverage. But yeah, it's still like a deep V, and it's nice. Yeah, okay, that's all I'm gonna say. So with the 1 inch on that edge, I would call that like a neckline, right? The back neckline also needs to match, so that needs additional 1 inch. So those are all the changes that I need to apply to the pattern. Okay, after I had put in the 1 inch on the neckline and 1 inch on the shoulder seam, I had to figure out where am I going to make the cutoff for the sleeve, and I think this was 5 5/8. As I was looking at the pattern, and I came back to the top to see where that was, and I realized that's way too much. So now I'm like trying to figure out where would be a good place to cut this off, and I think I decided with 2.5. Yeah, it looks like 2.5. So I marked that, and then I'm going to be like drawing a straight line from the like underpit to that 2.5 mark. I started with a straight line because it helps me visualize, and then you'll see that like I'm gonna curve it. Oh wait, maybe I changed it. Maybe it's not 2.5. Yeah, I think I did end up changing it. All right, what did I use? Okay, yeah, so it ended up being 4 inches, and that was nice. It's nice to like look at the pattern and then come back to a physical piece, and like see how that would translate physically, because paper is, it's 2D, and then it's nice to have like a 3D piece. And like, you don't have to visualize, you can see it, you know you can see where the changes are going to be. And you're like, hey, this and helps you like really make decisions. And making decisions is so difficult for me. I am so indecisive. I need I need a I don't know what I need. Maybe confidence instead. So I drew in that straight line, and now I'm putting in the curve because like I don't want it to be a straight line. It's just to help me like place where the curve is gonna be. And then I use the French curve, and because like the two curves didn't make a nice like blend, I used my straight ruler to sort of blend it nicely. There's a lot of erasing. It's a lot of erasing. After that, I'm gonna add in the 3/8 seam allowance to the right of that curve. One of my favorite things to do is to make checklists, and then when I do make like a check mark next to something I finish, I feel so accomplished. I feel so productive. Yeah, I am a list girl. That is what I am. I love making lists. In fact, like I make a list every morning or even the night before of things that I still need to get done. And some things will overlap from the day before into the next day because I didn't have time to get to it. It's just like helps me, yeah, helps me get things done, There's so much things to get done. When you're a single mom, you got cooking, you got cleaning, you got laundry, you gotta go grocery shopping, you got stuff to do with the kids, got homework, and then you got your shit. You gotta like, I need to make sure like there's time for everything. You only got like, let's see, I would say 15 hours of daylight to work with, and then you gotta rest. Sleep is so important. Yeah, so that's kind of like how I function and get things done. Trying to set up for next year, like putting good habits in now so that it's like a smooth transition to 2025, which is, and then a lot of my plans for next year is just to like make more stuff for myself, which I think is the best thing, instead of like maybe like making an online store, which is something I kind of always wanted to do, but for now that's like way too much pressure. So I'm kind of just using myself as a guinea pig and making things that I like and see like if it comes out nice. And it's basically this process, like perfecting the patterns, seeing how they come out when it's all constructed, like seeing if there can be improvements to that. I feel like that's what fashion is. When you start building something, I'm not like a fashion house. They start with their patterns. They start with like their first set of garments, and then they make alterations to that. They make variations of those things from the original pattern. So that's something I want to build. Not to say that I want my own fashion house or my own brand. It's just something I enjoy. I enjoy making clothes. I like figuring things out. I like understanding the human body and placing fabric on it. It's like creating puzzle pieces for the human body. And then you have like different designs, you have different styles, different colors, different proportions, different body shapes even, and how functional are the garments. It's, I don't know, completely fascinating to me. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. Like to start a project knowing like what you're getting yourself into, it's not gonna be quick. I feel like fashion is not a quick thing. It takes years of practice to perfect how you pattern or how you drape and how you understand the human body and relationship with garments. It's like something I'm very devoted to, something I have a lot of passion for, and something I really want to share with other people. That's why I feel like making videos of me learning and discovering new things I think it's important to share. So hey, just want to say hey, hi. Again, my name's Melody, and hope you're enjoying the videos so far. Okay, back to what I'm doing. I had cut off the body and I had cut off the sleeve portion. Now the sleeve is incomplete because it is missing the seam allowance. So I have to add in the seam allowance. Which is going to be because it had overlapped when it was still connected with the front. So like 3/8 was removed. So I have to add in that 3/8 back plus additional 3/8 for the sleeves. The sleeves seam allowance. And then I think I did have to cut off, I had to, on the shoulder sleeve, right? It had that seam, right? So I think I had to remove that 3/8. And then the sleeve is gonna be placed on fold, and it'll be instead of half of a sleeve, right? Because the front has half of the sleeve and the back has half of the sleeve. Now it's gonna be a whole set in sleeve, so I need to make a complete sleeve with the, not just the half. Does that make sense? Sorry, I hope that makes sense. So it's gonna be, you'll see, I think as you continue watching it'll make sense. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I had to go back a little bit, and I did cut out the 3/8 of an inch because there was that seam on the shoulder for the sleeve originally, so took that out, the 3/8, so that it would fit better into the armhole of the front and the back patterns. Now this is the 3" that I mentioned earlier, the 3" that I needed to add in so that the hem of the sleeve would level out. So I added that in, and now I'm just like blending the armpit, right, with the new sleeve cap. So I know, and you probably know, that this sleeve looks funky. It doesn't look like a traditional sleeve because it's like a rainbow curve from end to end, and like it's like I was gonna keep it like this, and then I realized no, I'm gonna make it look like a traditional sleeve, a regular sleeve, because there's a reason why sleeves look like they do. It's because the armhole, right? How it's like a hole. And I came to understand that the curve of the sleeve, right, it matches, it has to like, I don't know how to explain it in words, but like I understand that the, say it's a convex, then a concave, right, and then another convex of the sleeve. Well, the convex is the lower part of the armhole, and then the concave of the sleeve is for the shoulder, the cap, because you know your shoulder is there. It needs more, what's the word, accommodate. It needs that cap needs to accommodate the space, which is your shoulder, if that makes sense. Okay, so I had folded the paper where that half sleeve was, so that fold is not going to be like the center of the sleeve. And now I have a whole sleeve. Look at that. I'm looking at it and just like, this looks so weird. How am I gonna improve this? It starts from here and then you make more improvements, right? But like, this is where I'm at. I like to label every single pattern piece so that I know what it is. It's not just like a random piece of paper in my sewing room. I like to label what piece it is, to what design it's going to, how many pieces I need to cut, if I have to cut a pair or whatever, and then the seam allowance that's included with it, and the date, because sometimes like I'll make variations, I'll make changes, and I need to know based on the date if this was the earlier one or if it's an improved one. So it's good to put all that information on the pattern. Yeah, it just is, so that you're not like trying to figure out, oh, is this trash or is this something I've spent hours on already and perfected the fit or whatever, the design. Yeah, important things. So I got 3 things done off my list, and now we're moving on to the back piece, the back pattern. I'm only tracing the body part, not including that sleeve portion, because we already done the sleeve, like it's complete. So that part is just going to be avoided, and I think, well, here I'm making sure that like the side seams are going to match, and it looks like they do, so that I don't have to mess with that. It's good already. Okay, and then I'm just using the front of that curve. This is the new curve that I made, right, for the armhole. So I'm just copying that here. So I didn't need, like I said, like I didn't need the whole sleeve. I just, because that's done. So I just needed the armhole. And now I think we're on number 2, where I add the 1 inch for the neckline, and then removing 1 inch from the shoulder. And then I wanted to make sure that the shoulders are both gonna match up. And I remember like I struggled a little bit because I didn't like how it curved. I want it to be like a nice curve, that way like it's going around your neck nicely, it's not maybe cutting into your neck or in a funny way. So I'm just playing around with that curve and checking it if it looks nice, and then taking the front piece again, making sure it matches with the back. So it took a bit of a while to get a nice smooth neckline, the neckline from the front to the neckline on the back. So I got everything done off my list, and I think I'm just making sure everything matches, so when I sew it up, I don't have to be like, cutting things off to match. You want things to match first before you start cutting it out. Labeling the back piece now, which is unfold. So the center back is there. It has those 3 dots, which mean like, cut unfold, so that when you open it up, it'll be like, the entire piece. But the front is cut 1 pair, so you have a left side and a right side. Oh, you know what? Change of clothes. It's the next day after I had finished the pattern and making all the adjustments. I told myself, okay, that's enough work for the day. We got to do other things. I came back into the workroom the next day, kind of just cleaning up. I can like erase all this stuff, and I know like I have to like clean my sewing room. Actually, at this point in time when I'm doing this voiceover, I had already changed my sewing room, so there are some new things and the setup is more functional, and I recorded that, so that'll be like maybe the next 2 videos after. Sorry, I live across from the hospital, so yeah, that's just normal sounds of my life. But what was I saying? I forgot already. Oh, I had words that I had written on the mirror, which is my chalkboard, my whiteboard. It said like, I don't want to think about like where I'm going and how fast I'll get there. I kind of just want to wander, and that's kind of like, I feel like that's important for me. It's an important reminder for me, because I've always been like a planner, and like sometimes I overwhelm myself because I overthink and I overplan, and then I get so exhausted in the planning portion that I like don't even do the plans that I had planned to do. So I'm like taking up a new mentality where like I'm not focusing too much about like what I'm doing, right? I'm just like, if I'm happy, if it's fun, I'm gonna do it. Okay, anyways, back to this. I decided that the shoulders were too straight, so you know how your shoulders have a slope, so I had like make a little bit of slope. I think it was like 1/2 inch, so from the shoulder tip to the neck tip, the neck tip is 0, and then from the shoulder tip it was down 1/2 inch, so it made a better slope, a better fit for your body. And if I had left it, it would have like sort of made a kind of gap, maybe depending on how stiff the fabric is or what kind of fabric you're working it. It would like make a gap, or it would probably slope down. That's an interesting thing. You never know until you do it. What am I doing? I am putting the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, the line, so that I'm gonna overlap them. I'm gonna place the stitching lines on top of each other, and I think I'm still gonna play around with the neckline. I don't like, see how that angle there? I want it to be more round. I don't like how it looks, so I'm trying to like figure out, oh, how should I curve this? So you're gonna see me like trying to figure out how to make this neckline curve nicer. I wanted to mention, off topic, sort of on topic, but this video is 1 hour long, and it's only me focusing on the pattern and then cutting the fabric. I think so. Did I cut the fabric in this one? I don't remember. I am so forgetful too. But I hope that's okay. I hope you're okay with me just this 1 hour long video with just doing one portion of the work. It, you know what? I love pattern making. I think it's so important, and I try to like show like each step sort of, but like, because it is time consuming, you know, it's like hours of work that I'm chopping down. And so some parts are like fast forward, and some parts you're just seeing like the main part, and not a lot of like there's so many gaps of me just thinking and looking at the pattern. So I cut all that out, but it's still 1 hour long. But I feel like it is necessary just to show you like all the steps that I take. And honestly, if you want to be a designer or you want to make your own clothes, like patterns are like the foundation of fashion. If you want to make your own designs, not even like for a business or anything, like just for yourself, like me, like I'm just doing it for myself. Like I feel like it's so important to understand how to make patterns, to draft them yourself, so that you can take credit for it. You know, you can say like 100% this is my creation. And that may sort of differ because you know how I feel like everything has been done in fashion already. And you're kind of just, you know, copying. And yeah, I mean, like I have fashion books, I have pattern books, everything has a name for it. Things from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all these decades of designs are in this book, and everything's labeled, and things come back, into fashion. So it's like, do you like agree? Like, has everything been done? And there are designs that are like never been seen before, very futuristic, but I feel like that's kind of like not my style. Like I really I would say like I love like 50s, I love 80s, I love just functional clothes. I'm like a really simple person. I don't know. It's just, but you never know. Like people change. I tend to change, and styles change, and kind of like it's fun to change it up too. So what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Patterns are important. Yeah. So that's why this video is so long. Okay, so I had finished the curve, and what helped a lot was taking out a little bit from the front, that diagonal line, taking out, I think maybe I took out 1/4 of an inch, and that really helped like minimize that angle on the neckline. So that helped. And now I taped the front and the back together at the shoulders, and I'm going to try to see if this sleeve is gonna fit into the armhole from end to end. And I am gonna make modifications to this sleeve as well. I'm gonna make that convex and concave part of the sleeve cap so that it looks better, and so that I think if I had left it this way, it would have done like a lot of bunching like on the underpit part. So I'm happy that I made it look like what a sleeve is supposed to look like. Now I have to mark in the seam allowance because we're gonna do something called walking the pattern. So I need to see exactly where the stitches are going to be for the armhole and the sleeve. And then it's going to be hard to see. Like if I had a light table, it would be a lot easier, but I don't have a light table. So I'm just kind of like trying to see through the paper, but I put the seam allowance on top of each other, and I'm starting from one end, and I'm like walking the pattern on top of that seam line, right? Making sure it matches all the way up to the other side. And it actually does, because like the sleeve directly came from that pattern piece, the front and back, because it was you know how it was a kimono sleeve and I had just cut it out, so it fits in perfectly. But this is where things get a little tricky, because I wasn't sure if I'm doing this right, honestly, but I just know that I need that specific shape of the convex and concave. So I'm folding a piece of paper, right? I'm going to put this sleeve on that piece of paper. I'm going to trace it out. Also, I forgot to mention that I had cut off that like angle that was on the armpit of the sleeve. I could cut it off because it wasn't necessary. Yeah, here we go. We're doing it. I needed to make sure I made a right angle, make sure it was completely perpendicular to the fold, so that when I place the sleeve, it will, all line up nicely. Now, even though I have like a square ruler, I still used my other ruler with the grids to make sure it was like definitely a right angle. Tracing it out now, taking that existing sleeve, tracing it onto the new paper. It's so important to like make everything perpendicular, because especially if it's on a fold, when you open it up, you want to make sure that like where that fold is, it's not like some kind of tip. You kind of want it to be one consistent straight line, one consistent right angled line. Or you don't want it to be like a divot either. And here we go. We're moving on to the sleeve cap. I went up an inch because I kind of wanted to give it like a little bit of oomph, right, for your shoulder. And also I thought it would be nice to, like, it would make a nicer curve, a sleeve curve, and you'll see in a sec like how I did it. And right up at that 1 inch mark that I made, I did make another like perpendicular line to the fold, so that it doesn't make a point at the fold. It makes like, a nice curve when you open it up. That little line is only 1/4 of an inch, but when you open the fold, it becomes, 1/2 an inch, and it blends nicely with the curve. Now I want to do the same exact thing to the inseam of the sleeve. Same concept, and it makes a nice curve as well. So I kind of so you flip over the French curve, right? And you're going to make like this is the convex of that sleeve. And for me, I'm like kind of eyeballing, see how the original line and the new line, I'm kind of like eyeballing if it's like even amounts. And that's how I kind of know that like see, if I had measured, I didn't measure the whole sleeve cap, but if I had measured it, say if it was like 40, maybe it's too much. Maybe like, okay, say it was 30, like from end to end, that curve. Like, cause I evened it out, right? With the new line, like that S shape line. I kind of know that it's close to that 30 inch mark, but I didn't measure it. So that's just like a random number I'm using as an example, but yeah. And actually, the only problem with this sleeve was that it was 1 inch too long. So I ended up having to cut off half an inch from one end and then half an inch for the other end. And that's because I did raise the sleeve cap 1 inch, which is, it's perfectly fine. I feel like it's better that your sleeves are bigger than smaller, because if it's too small, like, you can't do anything about that. You have to cut a whole new sleeve. But if it's bigger, all you have to do is cut off the excess and it's still salvageable. All right. Moment of truth. It's a sleeve. Now this is like a all in one sleeve, meaning it's perfectly symmetrical, and there is no, like, you don't have to like flip it over to make it the opposite side of the sleeve, right? So it's just like, use this one sleeve no matter which way you cut it. It's for the left and it's for the right. Does that make sense? I don't know if anything I say makes sense, but yeah, I think that's the end of that pattern for the kimono top, quote unquote. And this is a pattern I had already made. It's for shorts, and I'm gonna make shorts too. I didn't mention that until now, but yeah. So after hours of wearing a GoPro on your forehead, it's just like, hurts your, there's a dent on my forehead, after a while. And I need to, like, air it out too. I had asked my friend who speaks Japanese, and I had asked her, like, what do these words mean? And she said they're recreational things, like swimming, hiking, running. And I was like, okay, thank you, because, like, I'm gonna use this for something, make a video, and, like, I kind of need to know, like, what it all means. Not really, but yeah, maybe it would be safe to know what's happening, which is funny because I had kind of intended these clothes to be sort of like loungewear. So the irony is there that it's loungewear and says all these, like, exercise stuff. And I folded the fabric in half lengthwise, and I placed the patterns in a way where, I'm trying to save as much, like, fabric as possible, and trying to reduce as much waste as possible, and played around with the placement a little bit and came up with this. Now it's good that it's on fold, because, like, I need a pair of the front. So folding it this way, you're gonna have one side and then the opposite side for the left and for the right? So tracing it out with a friction marker, and then the back piece, you can see that it's supposed to be on fold, so it's directly on the fold line of the fabric, so that when it opens up you get the whole back. And then the sleeve, I decided that I'm not gonna put it on grain. I'm gonna make it sideways to use up this space, and that's technically not correct. It's supposed to be on grain, meaning the other way. But you know what? To me, it's more important that I use up the space in as much as possible. I don't want to have, it's not gonna fit, that's why, right? I would have to move it more down lengthwise on the fabric, and then all this space would just be unused, and then I'd have to figure out, what am I going to use it for? What can I place here? And since this is just for me, it doesn't matter to me if it's not on grain. It'll be fine. Yeah, so here we go. We're just tracing it out, scooching it a little bit closer so it is touching the other pattern but not overlapping, because like you can like use the cut line. See how like the slope of the shoulders, they match perfectly because they are the same slope. So that worked out nicely, so that when I make that cut, it's also cuts, it's a cut for the other shoulder. Just taking my time, making sure things are going to transfer perfectly onto fabric. I feel like when you do things carefully, when you do things right to the like point, you know, as close to the point as possible, when you cut it out and it's as close to the pattern as possible, and then when you sew it, you know, it should be close to perfect. That's kind of like how I always like there's my son. That's how I've always like approached garment construction. If it's close to the pattern as possible, it's supposed to, the outcome is supposed to be, you know, close to perfect. That was Jack. He's my baby. He's my little one. Yeah, we're gonna get ready to cut, and then after we're done cutting, that'll be like the end of the video, and you're gonna have to come back for the next one for the sewing portion. And sorry if it's not satisfying that way, but you know, I already explained how like this is already a 1 hour video, and I just feel like all these points are important, and it just makes sense to like make a separate video for the sewing part. So that's kind of like how I'm gonna do things here. Yeah. It's non-negotiable, I'm sorry, but yeah, hopefully yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, am I doing this to help other people? Am I doing it for selfish reasons? Am I just sharing my process? Is this entertaining? I don't know. I really don't know. But I like talking, and I felt like I haven't done enough talking to people this year because it's, I don't know, I've been busy, and I want to like connect with people who are kind of like interested in what I'm interested in, you know. Let's have, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I am knowledgeable about my craft, but I'm still learning. I think if you're a creative person, if you're an artist, I think half of the reason why you are the way you are is to share your art, see if people like it, if they don't like it. Like, you kind of have that craving for attention. Is that true? I feel like that's true for me. Like, it's how we connect with people. Everyone has that need to connect with other people. Some people are talkative, and I'm not that way. I'm not talkative. I communicate through art. And now that I'm older, I have gotten better at like talking and sharing my thoughts and sharing my feelings with other people. But of course, it's like it's a tricky thing to do, because you should not trust all people to share your thoughts and feelings with. You have to like find the right people, you know, like then those people we actually call friends. So is all of this a subconscious way of building a community or being part of an existing community? Maybe. I don't know. I'm just doing what feels right. Anyways, I finished cutting out all the pieces. for the top, and now I'm placing the pieces for the shorts that I'm also gonna make. Actually, I'm wearing them today as I am doing this voiceover, and I love them. It's really cute. I ended up not putting in the pockets because I know it's like house clothes. It's something I'm just gonna be wearing at the house. I don't need to stick things in a pocket when I'm home, so I just skipped that part. Kind of regret it because even though I don't put anything in my pockets, I kind of like sticking my hands in my pockets. Like if someone happens to come by the door and we're chit-chatting, have like a place for my hands to go. I noticed that like not a lot of people like put their hands in their pockets. Like I feel like I'm weird. Like I do that. Yeah, I know. It's like comforting. Like don't look at my hands. I'm trying to hide a piece of me. So these pants actually have a waistband that goes with it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to raise the waist 1 inch, and then it'll be a fold over for the elastic that I'm going to add in. Now, if I knew I was not, the plan was to use a 1 inch elastic, but I found that I had 2 inch elastic made, I think, for another project that I ended up not doing, and I was like, hey, I can use this because the 2 inch elastic is nice because, you know, when you have a belly, elastic sometimes likes to like roll over, right, and get into that crease of your belly, you know, when you sit down. Yeah, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna use a 2 inch because that kind of like prevents that from happening. And as I am touching my waistband right now, that is 100% true. All right. So if I knew I was gonna do the 2 inch elastic, I would have raised the waist 2 inches instead of just 1 inch. So there are some things that I didn't do on the pants. I didn't do the pockets. I didn't do the waistband. I did end up doing the darts for the back, but then I took them out because when I was sewing it up, I realized that the reason why I put the darts there, it was because the waistband was too small. So I had to take in the pants a little bit. That's why I ended up making the darts. But since I wasn't doing the waistband, the darts actually were not necessary. So I ended up taking those stitches out. But that's in the next video. Yeah. I'm really happy with the way the pants came out. I feel like the pants are more perfect than the top. And I made a top and shorts like as a set, but I don't like wearing them as a set. It's just too matchy for me. I don't like it at all. So I wear them like in separate outfits. They don't ever go together. Now since the front and the back of the shorts look exactly the same, and it's hard to tell if there are, you know, darts for the back, so I use these little sticky notes to label which is which, because like the pieces for the top are like more obvious, but the pants were not as obvious. There was something I didn't record either. Like I ended up making back facings for the back of the top, so that one I did off camera. But yeah, in the next video you'll see that it has a facing that wasn't recorded. I don't know if you heard, my mom was watering her plants in the lanai right outside my window, so you could kind of hear the water spraying. But yeah, I feel like no, I don't feel, I know I know another thing I need to do for the top pattern is to make also a facing for the front neckline, that sort of slope, that diagonal line that needs a facing. I feel like that would be better for construction. The way I did it, because everything's done now, it's fine. It looks okay, but as a perfectionist, it kind of bothers me a little bit. Kind of like, it's like kind of like scratching like the back of my brain that I should have done it better. But I'm actually gonna do another variation of the top. I'm gonna make it longer and make a dress version. So that's something I'm gonna do in the future. And I will put in that facing, and I'm gonna sew it better. Sometimes, like, I don't think when I do something. Like, I don't do all the thinking beforehand. I don't do all the planning beforehand. I kind of just go with the flow. I figure out as I go. It's more fun that way. And then when I make mistakes, I'm just like, hey, it's okay. It's like a learning experience. I'm just gonna do it better next time. So that's why the shorts came out so perfect. It's because it wasn't the first time I did it. It was maybe like the fourth time I've done it, because the pattern was originally for my friend. I made one for her, and then each of her two girls got shorts. And now I'm making it for myself, and kind of like I know what to do already. I know what mistakes not to do. So yeah, that's why the pants came out so much better this time. And then the top, it had mistakes, but I'm sure if I do it a second time, it would be so much better. Well, this is the end of the video. Disregard what I'm doing here because it doesn't make any sense. Because I'm putting in the dart legs and the punch hole for the dart, but it's not necessary. I'm gonna be taking it out anyway. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making it this far. I'm sorry it was so long. Here's a little before and after shot of the patterns, and I'll see you in the next one. I love you. Goodbye.